Hey guys, welcome back to Primer Podcast. My name's Jessica Flake, part of the spiritual formation team. Back this week with Megan Butler. We're so excited to have you
I'm
with us.
so glad to be here.
Yeah,
I've gotten to see all of these, and I've not gotten to participate
yeah,
yet.
well, I'm excited to have you. Both of us, the redheads, are going to take
Yes.
over this week. And
It's Team Redhead. I
Yeah.
keep joking we need to have T-shirts because people confuse us.
yeah,
And we just need to have both of our names on the T-shirts.
that's right.
So.
Which I don't mind getting confused. So with you. So I mean, I always take it as a compliment. So
well,
perfect.
it's like being sisters.
That's right, right. So we are in week 3 of 1 John.
Moving right along.
Yeah, excited to see kind of what has stirred in your heart with this passage. And
yeah. Oh, I've been sitting in this one for quite a bit, just because I feel like when we talk about love, and when I talk about love, I have these kind of insecurities of hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a little bit like I'm being hypocritical, exploring what John is telling us to do in loving others, because I know I don't do it well. And so I've been praying through that a lot this past week, and I think a lot of other people probably struggle with that too.
For sure. Yeah, I think we all have that feeling like it's comes hard sometimes to love others well. Sometimes we feel like we're doing good and we didn't quite hit the mark like we thought we did.
Oh yeah.
And
Which is really kind of cool, because 1 John 3 does address that a little bit. How God really encourages us to remember that when we fall short, if we go to him and if we ask for forgiveness, he's going to continue to offer us the grace to keep trying to love.
Yeah.
And there's a passage that really gets to the heart of that, which we can read if you'd like to read. 1 John 3:16.
Yeah. So first John 3:16. So it says, "This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters." I've read that and I've heard it multiple times, and it's funny because it seems a little weighty. Like,
yeah,
I don't know that it. I doubt it's talking about death in that sense.
Oh, it could be, though, especially if you think about the context of the day and the imperial cults that people might have been worshiping as a part of, and the risk that it was to be a Christian. But yeah, when I think of this passage, I think of Memorial Day, when the Gospel John, and it has very similar language, this is what's used to talk about the weightiness of that. And it's funny because laying down our lives is actually more of a setting aside or surrendering of something. And so that begs the question, what is it in our lives that we're called to surrender or sacrifice that we highly value? Were there things that might come to mind for you?
Yeah, I think like immediately, like I value my time.
Yeah.
And I value my my home. And so it's truthfully, those two things kind of go hand in hand. It's kind of my safe place where I get rest. And so I immediately think how it actually makes me think of someone in particular and how well they love based on how they use their home and how they use their time. And one particular couple that has opened up their home to us as a small group, and they're not part of the small group, but they allowed us to come in for a period of time just to have a space that we don't have to think about and be able to go in. The wife of the couple, she would make little snacks for us, and
that's so nice.
It was so great. And they opened up their home for Walking Wisely, which we all know is a very very wild weekend, which I love. It's such a fun weekend.
Yep.
But having 15 young 14, 15-year-old girls running around in your house is, it takes a special heart to open up their home to that.
What's really cool about that is they're not just sacrificing something like their comfort, they're taking on some tasks that you otherwise would have had to worry about. And so that's another way of looking at sacrifice that I've not really thought about yet.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah.
Actually, in verses 17 and 18, we get a little bit more about what this sacrificial love looks like. Verse 17 says, "If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth." And I think a lot of times we also get hung up on material possessions almost as equally is when we get hung up on hearing about laying down our lives. Because, some of us may be really blessed with resources, and others of us may have to be a little bit more mindful of how we use those resources. And I got to thinking, what does a sacrifice of resources look like in our lives? And it could be that home. It could be the car that you're using. Not that you're giving that car to somebody else, but maybe you're giving a ride to an Elon student who needs to get to the airport and doesn't have another way to do that.
Right. Yeah.
So material possessions looks different, I think, in all sorts of different circumstances.
Right. Yeah. Like just in instance, I'm borrowing a car right now because we are down a car for a short period of time.
So sorry.
Yeah. It's been a little bit, but just the thoughtfulness of being able to have someone offer a car to us for a period of time has been such a blessing to us.
Yeah.
And for them to be able to give that up, and I'm sure that it's not easy for them just to give it up when they're probably needing it from time to time. So they've been able to be able to bless us with that this week.
It sounds like you have a good relationship with the person who is offering you that car. And I think that's another thing that we don't often think about, but is another thing to consider when it comes to sacrificing what's of value to us. It might be the people that we're in relationship. We're not sacrificing them up in any means, but we are using our relationships to serve other people.
Right.
Something that meant the world to me when I was single and thinking through kind of what that looks like in the church were some of the voices in capital C church conversations that talked about how we usually end up in silos with people in similar seasons, but it's really cool when we can step out of our comfort zone. And like as a family who has small children, if they offer like a young couple over to hang out after putting down the kids for bedtime, that is a way to serve other people and maybe to sacrifice what feels comfortable just to build relationships with others. So that's another realm too.
Yeah. And I think I'm looking back at verse 18, and it says let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and truth. And I think that is so, like, going back to week 1 with where it talks about living in the light, and a lot of times having that thought of words are pretty easy, and yet the actions of someone takes time a lot of times to be able to see. Like I may be able to have a conversation with someone, and I'll take what they're saying for truth, but then we usually watch for their actions, and their actions end up most of the time coming to the same feeling as their words. But sometimes when we think of like our actions when we're having conversations with new believers or non-believers, being so mindful as Christ followers to make sure that our words and our actions are matched.
Yeah, that's a key concept in 1 John 3. We see this language of the world not knowing who God is because it hasn't recognized him yet. People nowadays have probably heard of God or heard of Jesus. We would hope so, but they don't necessarily know who God is the same way that we do because they've not seen his love for us in their lives. And that's what Jesus is tasking us to do and what he's modeled for us, which is so important. And I think that is what takes speech into action,
right?
Is that purpose, that motivation to help others to see God as he truly is. And I think that's our heart check too. It's our test to make sure that our heart is postured correctly when we are loving. I was talking to my fiance, Nick, and he had mentioned how all loving actions are good deeds, but not all good deeds are loving actions. And I've been marinating on that the past week because it has me wondering, what is the purpose behind our love? Are we doing it for ourselves to feel good, or are we doing it in order to glorify God and to help people better understand his character?
Yeah.
So I've appreciated getting the chance to sit on that for the past week.
Yeah, I think that's great. And how the Holy Spirit can kind of nudge you in that direction to continue to think on that. And so guys, hopefully you'll follow the Holy Spirit's nudges in your life to kind of dig a little deeper on what God's trying to tell you and tell us, and be able to love on each other better. And I know I'm going to dive a little deeper into this chapter this week, and be able to lean into what John is talking about here, and being able to love others more. And hopefully you'll be able to do that as well. We'll see you next week.